Thanks to our host, John Foreman, we are back with another Master Coaches Weekly Buzz. We continue to update you on current issues, trends, and conversations with leaders in the sport. Now, let's go to former Olympic coach Mick Haley, who will introduce our special guest today. Mick?
Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce somebody that's really pretty special. I got to compete against her. I got to compete against her mentor for a number of years. We had a lot of great battles, but Cecile Reynaud was the architect of the Florida State women's volleyball program, built that thing into a national power, really left it in great shape for Chris Poole to take over there. And then she just didn't stop there. She went on to continue to work her way up in the USA volleyball ranks till now today. She's chairman of the board, which is an extremely important position, and that's why we have her on today. She was saying she had some bad weather today, and it brought a memory back to me. The last time that she and I were playing with bad weather, she had her team really going well into the fifth game. Looked like they were going to beat the Longhorns in Gregory Gym, and all at once we heard thunder and lightning, and lo and behold, somebody had forgotten to close the skylights, and it rained for about 10 minutes on the court before we got the skylights closed. Of course, Cecile looked at me as if I did that on purpose, and absolutely I had no divine powers. We grabbed towels, we wiped the court up for 20 minutes, and by that time we had recovered and came back to win the match, luckily. So the next year when we played again at Gregory Gym, I offered Cecile an umbrella, and I don't have one today to offer to you, but we're really happy to have you on.
Thank you.
If you remember that.
Yes, you know, I remember trying to get my captain to come down off the referee stand. She was so upset, and I don't recall there being that much water on the floor. We thought we were good to go, but, you know, it might have just been the reflection.
Well, pretty funny. But today we have a chance to get some answers to some really great questions. Last week we had David Shoji on, retired coach from Hawaii. He had some really good information on a pro league that he says is going to happen in a couple of years, 2023, started by some people out in Hawaii, but they're not going to select the top group of athletes for their pro league. We've seen a release from USA Volleyball about a new pro league starting with some different kinds of things that USAV is partnering with. And I was wondering if you could kind of fill us in on this and what USAV thinks they can achieve by partnering with this, and is it good for our national team and our national efforts?
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for having me on here. I want to make sure that I just give a shout out to everybody and hope that everybody's safe where they are and that we all continue to take care of each other. But, I'm excited about being on this show with all these former coaches and good friends. The USA Volleyball was approached by a group called Athletes Unlimited. And they're an organization that's putting together several professional sports leagues for women. And I'm sure we all know USA Volleyball. You know, I've been at a clinic where all the national team players introduced themselves, and it was, I play in Germany, I play in Italy, I play in France, I play in Japan, I play in Brazil. And we all just went, oh, can't we do something about that? So we've always tried to focus on getting a league here in the United States. So this Athletes Unlimited, the co-founders are John Petrikoff and Jonathan Soros. And they're starting some things with women's softball, I think, later this year, and then women's ice hockey, and maybe some more down the line. But they started talking with Karch Karai, our women's national team coach, and Jamie Davis, our CEO, last summer. And the reason USA Volleyball is involved, they'll have input on the coaching staff. They'll have input on the time of the year for the play. It's going to be mid-February to April. And then the promotion of the players in the leagues, and to give the national team players and higher level players an opportunity to stay in the United States for a little while. I think the thing that's different about this league that we probably haven't seen before is that it's athlete-centered. And if you go to the Athletes Unlimited website, they've got a quote which I think is really interesting. It says, "We've eliminated team owners so the best athletes in the world become decision makers and stakeholders in the leagues." Now, that's what every athlete wants to hear. So what a recruiting pitch for them. Every athlete wants to know they're in charge. So there'll be 48 athletes. They'll get ownership shares once they come on board. The ones that are on earlier help to decide what other players will be invited to come in, which I think is unique. There'll be 4 captains, and each week those captains will select their team for the next week. So, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Matches are going to consist of 5 sets. So they'll play 5 sets regardless. I think they're going to go to 20 points. And then they'll play 3 matches each week. So like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like 2 matches, 2 matches, 2 matches. And then they'll award points to the players. So the highest scoring point winners, those top 4, move up to captains the next week and get to select their team all over. So they draft or redraft every week. They're going to get points for how many sets they won. There'll be a match MVP selected, and that will be by other players, coaches, media, if they can have fans in the gym. And then individual stats that we're familiar with, kills, digs, serving aces, and things like that. So far, it's going to be, I think it's about a 5 to 6 week league. They can select a charity promote if they want to have that on their uniform or something like that. 4 players, have signed up already that we know of. Feluca Akinratowo, as you know, Feluca is a great player for the national team, and Jordan Larson, also another well-recognized name on the national team. And then Molly McGage, I believe, played at Texas, and Tiffany Clark is just out of Wisconsin. Tom Pingle was brought on as a senior advisor, so he's been helping work through all of this. If you want to get him as a guest on your show, I'm sure he'd love to come on. And then Chris McGowan is the technical director. So I know one of the questions you wanted me to answer for you was what city it was going to be in, and that has not been announced yet. They've been in negotiations, but that should be coming out relatively soon. But anyway, it sounds like a fascinating league to me, and just an opportunity for young women to stay in the United States, to make some money. These bonus points, they also get bonus points. So they just get a salary, but they also get bonus points for all of these different things that I talked about. And then those bonus points will give them extra money. So what can I answer with any questions that you have on that league?
Well, Cecile, this is Bob. I mean, this is a completely unique and creative approach to pro volleyball, pro any sport.
Right.
But you don't have that, potential for the fan base from city to city. How do you think this is going to, develop in terms of fan support? And, is it going to have TV, viewing, and where people are going to just relate to the player as opposed to a particular team?
And those are all great questions, and I don't have answers to those. I know they are in negotiations with the TV, some kind of a TV package, with all the usual people that we think about when we want to try and televise something. And if they're going to stream it, a lot of these great players come from various colleges that have big fan bases. So I'm sure there's a marketing plan to try and take care of that. I'm just not aware what that is, Bob.
Okay.
And the league will also be responsible for their housing, food, and travel to the city. And so that takes a little bit of the expense out of it, trying to travel around to various cities, but just go and stay in one spot.
Okay.
Well, that's really, really informative and much different than what the league that Soju was envisioning that he told us about. So it gives players a number of options now in the next 2 or 3 years in the United States to play. The thing we wanted to get to today, though, and Brian Gimmillaro is going to talk to you about, and it seems like every 5 minutes we get a new announcement on what's happening here. But Brian, why don't you jump in here and talk to us about USA Junior Nationals and those kinds of things?
Well, it's exact. Hi, Cecile. How are you?
I'm good, Brian. Good to see you.
It's just that. What is going to happen in the latest in what USAV says about junior volleyball? What's the latest for this year? What do you think? What looks like in the future? Financial considerations, ability to play, end of the year tournaments. What's on the horizon right now? Because many of our viewers are involved with the club business.
Okay, that's all you want me to answer is just give you the like what's life going to be like next week?
Yeah, I'm worried about tomorrow myself, but
I am too. Yeah. Well, let me take you through a little bit about what USA Volleyball's been doing about this whole pandemic response, and we'll talk about the juniors as well. So first of all, we had this pandemic come along, and all of a sudden, Jamie Davis, our CEO, we've got, and he and I talk constantly. I think we've already spoken 4 times today. But he really tried to develop this central hub on the USA Volleyball website to communicate information so everybody got it at the same time. And Brian, there's a lot of frustration, but there's a lot of frustration because nobody knows what's going on with this virus except the virus. And we try and pinpoint or try and pin down Jamie and say, when can you tell us something? And he says, nothing like this has ever occurred, and we're going to try and take care of everybody. So health and safety of the members is the first and foremost of anything. Of course, that's one of our priorities as a board and in our strategic plan. So health and safety of everybody is the top priority. When this first came along, and as Mick knows and all of you know, the USA Volleyball is huge. So national team athletes were all overseas playing. So now we've got to get them back in the country safely. And what I think Dave mentioned, there were like 300 athletes. I mean, there are a lot out of the country. Then the offices had to be shut down all over the country, Anaheim, Torrance, Oklahoma, where the sitting team plays. The staff had to all be taken out of the office. We had to make sure everybody could work remotely. They canceled the USA Coaches Clinic that was going to be in Anaheim. That next week, it was the USA men's sitting team was going to be hosting the last qualifying possibility to go to the Paralympic Games. Foreign teams, international teams were flying in. That had to be shut down. Those teams had to be taken out of the country. And so it just, it goes on and on with that. Our board meetings and the U.S. Opens, that was coming up in May. This is the week we would be in Minneapolis for all of the May meetings, which, as you know, it's the 40 regions and officials and everybody. So we got on a call and said, we're not going to be able to probably travel there. We're going to have to start making plans. So our board is meeting virtually for the first time ever tomorrow. I've been on calls the last week and all this week with the regions and talking with them about a variety of things, but they're going through their usual meetings. The USA Volleyball Hall of Fame banquet was canceled, and that's going to be a virtual banquet. Ruth, you've been to that. And that's going to go live tonight on the USA Volleyball website. I hope people will tune in for that. So lots of things going on. Then we started gathering as much information from as many sources as we could to try and see, was this going to be over by Easter? Was what a statement one time. And so I think just we're trying to follow the virus, and it's going to tell us what the timeline is for everything. We canceled all the activities as far out as we could when there was a national shutdown. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Okay, everything is shut down. We're all sheltered in place. And then once that happened, then coaches contacted us and said, we want to work with our athletes online. We've got junior clubs. We want to keep working with them. We want to do that. Well, Safe Sport, who oversees all the Olympic athletes and Olympic sport governing bodies, has some policies that you can't do any type of online communication with minor athletes. So we had to go through an approval process to get that taken care of. I think we had thousands, I don't know if it was 5,000 or 6,000 requests come in where parents signed and said, yes, coaches can meet with my athlete virtually online and coach them and have meetings. So, it just goes on and on. And then we put together a return to play task force. I served on that. There were board members. There were regional members. There were staff. We had Dr. Briner, who is medical staff. He was on there with us and talked about what is it going to take to be able to let volleyball players and coaches and spectators go back into the gym. So as we're working on that, then all of a sudden, and we're reviewing CDC material, other leagues, other organizations, facilities are trying to all come up with theirs at the same time. So then all the states started opening up at different times. So now there is no way that you can say, everybody's still good or everybody stay in place because, Georgia opened a couple of weeks ago. Florida, I think this past week or last week, our governor said, everybody come to Florida and play. We'll take all the pro teams. So it's a little chaotic. And so the guidelines that we came up with were whatever your local government will allow you to do. If that means going back into the facility, just with 2 or 3 people at a time, spreading out, it's 25% occupancy, 50%. I mean, the variables that go on with this would make you go crazy if you were trying to figure it out.
Okay.
It off to Ruth. Ruth has a unique perspective. She's coached at Houston, University of Houston, LSU, Tennessee? Am I right? No.
Oh yeah, they were in the SC. Yeah, that's where Bob was, Brian. All right,
That's
good
where
job.
Bob was, yeah. But Ruth is now working with 10 and unders after working 3 Division I women's college teams. Now she's working with 10 and unders. So she has a unique perspective of all this, and I'm going to turn it over to Ruth.
Well, I think the interesting thing is because I live in Dallas, because the Junior National Championship is scheduled to be at the end of June, and the governor came out Monday with this statement. He says, effective May 31st, 2020, youth sports may begin holding practices without spectators. But the next key was, those sports may begin holding games or similar competition with or without spectators on or after June 15th, 2020. So guess what? We are open to play. The Nationals are in Dallas. How are you going to pick the teams? All the qualifiers are gone.
Into any announcement that comes out. But as of right now, they're scheduled. And again, the governor just came out with that, I think, on Monday. And that's one of the things that we've been talking about is what we won't know anything until the state announces that. Staff has worked on putting teams together, but right now we have to know whether teams have even been able to get out and practice. I mean, you have to look at the reality of it as well. If teams haven't been able to be in a gym together, is there any point in having the tournament? So, all that's being taken into consideration for sure.
So would there be a minimum number of teams that you would need to be able to host the event? Would it be based on number of teams or no?
Well, everything's it depends. If you're coaching, every answer is it depends. It depends on what the convention center says. Is it at 25% capacity? Is it 50% capacity? How many courts can they put in? How many is there egress and ingress problems? How do you get people in and out? What's the situation with the hotel? What's the situation with travel? What about restaurants? I mean, all of those are factors that are in consideration with our staff right now.
Well, I hope that we were able to host it because it's in Texas, and I'm glad that it's open, but everybody's got to be safe too.
Yes, that's again, our number one priority is hosting an event and practices and club tournaments only if they're safe for everybody to attend. So trust me, we're taking that all into consideration.
In terms of liability, who would, what does USAV say about the liability of all these issues?
Well, all of the return to play guidelines, we met with our insurance people and they certainly review everything to see, if they approve of the guidelines. And so that's a really important question, Brian, and that's, we've checked into that.
Cecile, this is Bob again.
Hey, Bob.
Is there any chance that USA Volleyball will postpone, or delay it till July? Because the other factor that I just got, over an email a couple of days ago was NCAA has now extended the dead period all the way to June 30th. I would imagine that's going to have an impact on teams that are coming because, recruiting and scholarships pretty much drive the junior training.
I remember back when I was coaching, and I think there was a tournament in Arizona, and the NCAA started playing with the dead period, and they said you couldn't go out in January. And then that tournament said, well, we'll move our tournament. And we said, just play without us. It's okay to play without us. Get a little bit better. So yes, I know the NCAA has moved that date, and that, everything keeps moving. So, these are, not that that's a factor whether or not we host a tournament. Safety is our number one priority. But certainly, it's an unusual time with things flying all at us. Go ahead, ask me if we're going to have a football college season. Throw that one at me. Go ahead. And again, we're really trying to study things as much as we can and put as much information out there as we can. And, we want people to know that we are as concerned as we can be about everybody's health and safety, and we'll do the right thing.
So you think this will be one of the top topics, with the board meeting coming up this week to make this decision?
Well, no, interestingly enough, it's not the top topic. The top topic is going to be even harder than that. It's going to be our strategic plan for 21 through 24. So I've got a lot of smart people on the screen here. I'm anxious to hear what you think USA Volleyball and the world of sport is going to look like 4 years after this. With the Olympics and the Paralympics being postponed, that certainly does a lot of things to all of our national team athletes' training and coaches, and it's a mess like we've never seen before.
So I would probably just ask, let's assume that you say go back and they say 25% occupancy and it's in the Dallas Convention Center. Are you as an organization going to kind of monitor that, or is that something with the local health or with the commission, Dallas Sports Commission?
A great question. That's how everything has to be factored in. So what would the convention center be responsible for? Are they going to be responsible for people coming in and out and monitoring? Is the USA Volleyball event staff going to be responsible for that? This has all just come on, and again, all of this is being investigated and worked through to see what we think, and how many courts and how many teams, and teams maybe that have qualified aren't interested in coming. Can they give their bid to someone else? There's no clear answer for any of these, but it's one of those things we talked about in graduate school. We want to try and teach you how to think critically, because you're not always going to know what the problem is going to be, and this has certainly been one of those.
Yeah. Brian, I knew you had another question.
Cecile, I suggest you be careful when you say yes to coming on to a show.
I'm never afraid to talk to anybody, and I'll tell you, everything I know, whether it's good news or bad news. But, all I can say is that it's a very unique experience for everyone in every aspect of life, in every business. So, we're not the only ones going through this, but I think, we're the only ones that are going to help each other get through it for sure.
Since you jumped into this, what is your thoughts? What are your thoughts about the high school or collegiate season? I know you don't govern that, but what are your thoughts right now with the women's upcoming season or the girls' upcoming season?
Well, I think
the latest?
The National Federation, I think, of High School Activities just came out with their return to sport guidelines. I think it's about a 17-page document I was reading through this morning. And so they've got certain things that they're going to do for the collegiate women's teams and, soccer, volleyball, and football. When are they going to allow those students back on campus? And my understanding, it's not until the campus is open. And I don't know of any college campus necessarily. A large college campus has said we're open yet. And so I think that we're hoping that everybody's able to play this fall, and the high school seasons can stay in the fall, the college seasons can stay in the fall. But if for some reason they say we're going to play in the spring, college and high school, then, there's just another kind of a wrench in the cog about what all's going to go on with the club seasons next year.
Okay, Cecile, the question came in. It said, shouldn't clubs be putting together a 12, 18, 24-month plan of contingencies in the event that national events are not able to proceed?
I think they should. And, we've got the regional commissioners. I'll be on a call with them. They're having their general assemblies. I'll be on a call with them in just, I'm not sure, 20 minutes or so. So we'll have all 40 regional commissioners. And as they discuss things, we're going to, ask them about coming up with plans and trying to see if we can't work together as a group to help each other figure this out. What will we do if we're just in lockdown a little bit more?
Okay, so Mick, I know you're going to summarize this, and then we're going to go to the introduction of who actually is coming on next week. You've been sitting there. I know you have at least 5 questions, but you only got time for one.
He's been taking notes, I know.
Well, I just listened to all of this. Texas A&M's athletic director came out today saying that they're sending their women's volleyball team to Hawaii to play this fall because they saved $15,000 on airline tickets because they were so inexpensive. And then 15 minutes ago, the Austin American-Statesman flew something across the screen saying it looks like Texas will not play football this fall. This is communication 101A problem for everybody. And then to think about at the last minute going with the national championship for juniors without one having any practice time, any training that we know of or can count on, aren't we taking some unnecessary risks here, or is there something I'm missing on this?
The only thing you're missing is time. I'm not sure if anybody has been able to get back into the gym. And as I said before, we'll do what's safe. If teams are able to get in and practice and they want to compete, we want to give them an opportunity. I don't know whether that's going to happen or not, but as of now, it's still scheduled in Dallas in late June. So Texas may not have football. I heard our volleyball match, we had to pull away from one, and so everybody's changing their schedules, and it happens, immediately. I mean, you just can't stay on the news and catch it all fast enough.
Well, thank you so much for being on, Cecile.
Sure.
I mean, this is quite helpful, and I know people really, really appreciate that. So thanks from all of us for sharing your thoughts, and hopefully we can get you back on, because I think this is going to be truly the wild, wild west of the volleyball season. Maybe it's appropriate that it's going to be in Dallas. I don't know. And for everybody listening, next week we will have Jenny Hahn, the executive director of the JBA, on. Hopefully you guys are talking, Cecile, but we'll see what Jenny has to say about what JBA is doing and what their thoughts are also, so we can get a feel of really what's happening all across the board. But thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Great. Let's now join us next week for Master Coaches, and follow us on Facebook, Volleyball Master Coaches, on Instagram and Twitter, VB Master Coaches. And now let's go to our host, John Foreman, who will update you on his coaching conversations that will be coming.
Question for Cecile that came in.
Yep.
What's the link for the Hall of Fame thing tonight? Somebody asked.
It's the open is very short. Joan Powell and I just filmed that yesterday. And then I believe you can go to whatever awards you'd like to watch. So you don't have to sit through an entire event, but you can just click on the various awards and hear about the award winners. And so I think there's not a real time limit.
All right, and that's just on the USAV website?
Yes, I believe it's going to be released tonight. Bring your own food to the banquet.
Perfect. There you go. All right.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Cecile. Thanks,
Sure.
Master Coaches. Make sure to check in next week for the next episode, and every Wednesday after that, for as long as we stay excited about this. For those of you who are not aware, this is kind of an extension of the coaching conversation series that I've been running for the last, I guess, 2 months. I don't know. Seems like forever now. You can find out more about that at coachingvolleyball.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter on Coaching VB, and also on the Facebook page that this is streaming on, Coaching Volleyball. Thanks a lot for everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
See you all.
Thanks,
Stay safe.
Cecile. Great to see you again.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody.
All right.
Good job.